Thank you very much for joining us. This is a special Rappler Talk. I'm speaking with two women. Um, Berta Feliciano is the youngest daughter of Eugenio Lopez. She is the sister of my former boss, Gabby Lopez. And then we have his mother, Chita Taylor, is with us. And I think this may be the first time in the history of so many things that she's lived through that she's going to speak with us. I'm Maria Ressa. The government has filed 8 arrest warrants against me. So I hope we get to see, from different views exactly where the Philippines is today. Chita and Berta, thank you for doing this. Let me throw the first question to you. How do you feel about what's happening in the Philippines today?
Berta?
I'm angry. I'm very angry about everything that's going on and everything that's happening with impunity. But I feel that it's not going to be forever. I mean, there's a season, there's a rhythm to things. Nothing lasts forever. Everything that swings right will swing left, goes up, will go down. It's just that we just have to hold on for the long run till this, whatever is happening now, runs its course. But yeah, it's not right what's going on. I mean, it's like nothing is the way it is anymore. I feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland. I mean, everything is possible. It's everything anyone can conjure up in their head is possible. So it's instills a lot of fear and dread in people because you don't know what to expect anymore. But I feel that, just the way, like, for example, I'll just quote, like, Angel Locsin. I think she's such a great person that speaks out for ABS. Just the way she feels, all those stars, all the people in ABS who've worked to bring her to where she is. I also stand with all those employees, and not only the employees, I mean with everybody in the Philippines who somehow is not getting what is due them for one reason or another. Yeah.
Chita.
I think it's awful, awful, awful. And it's such a strong feeling of, deja vu. Ano ba ito? Here we are again. Marcos time, okay, the first 5 years we were in the Philippines. Then my husband escaped and we came to the States. So we're in exactly the same situation. I mean, I am here viewing all the horrible disasters from afar. So it's terrible. It's, I don't know what to say. I mean, who would think that we would go through something like this again, in our lifetime? I hope that's the last of it.
Let me follow up with that, Chita.
Okay.
You said, it's deja vu. It is. I mean, your family has been, every time there seems to be a rise of fascism, of dictators, your family gets targeted.
Yeah.
What is it? Why?
I was thinking about that. Going back to the old man, the father of my husband, he was always the kind that would take sides. Many businessmen would give donations to both sides, and he wasn't like that. He made up his mind which candidate he liked, which party he liked, and so when the other party won, he got into trouble. The same thing. That's what happens. I think that's why we get into trouble all this time, because we take sides. We don't, donate to both sides like many businessmen do. I don't blame them. But in our case, it seems to me from what I've seen, they take sides. And so when the wrong side wins, they're in trouble.
When martial law was declared and ABS-CBN was shut down and you had to take your whole family, you had to get your husband out of prison. What was that time like for you?
You mean when we, well, they picked him up a few months after martial law was declared. They were telling him that you're going to be picked up. I remember he said he had cocktails once with JV Cruz, and JV was telling him, Henny, you know, I'm hearing these things, you're going to be picked up. And he was saying, I've done nothing wrong. Why will I run away? So he got picked up. And they went to the office and they said, Mr. Lopez, we just want to bring you in for some questions. And that was for 5 years until he escaped. Yeah. It made a better man out of him, I must say.
In what way? Why do you say that?
You know, he said, you know, all my life, I was powerful. Everything went my way. Then all of a sudden, everything was taken away with the sign of the pen. And he said, I realized that the value of things that, you know, it can be taken away just like that. And then when I was in prison, I began to realize what was really important. My family, he said, who I neglected. And so he grew to be a much better person, actually. And I used to tell my friends, if your husband is fooling around and you're not happy with him, have him picked up. You'll be happy.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, those were actually, it was a grow, and even the children, I don't know, Roberta, if you remember, he always was busy. He loved you. If you had problems, he was there. But when he was in prison, he would talk to each one of you, take you aside and talk to you and really listen to you, which he didn't really used to do. Do you remember that? Is that right? Sort of.
Yeah. I don't, that was all, it's also a blur for me, Mom, those times.
Yeah. Mm.
Berta, you were the baby of the family, right?
I had 2 younger brothers. I was 11.
You were the youngest sister. Yes, yes, yes. So 11 is old enough to have known, you know. How did you react when this was happening to your family and when your family was forced to flee?
You know, I'm just so lucky that my parents, especially my mom, because she was the one really taking care of us, really never burdened us with things. So my life really went on as usual. I went to the same school. I had the same friends. It didn't change that much, except that my dad was in jail and now I had to visit him there. And when I even talk to my friends now, who are my classmates, they all say the same. It's like we were just scared about curfew and being home before curfew was, you know, before curfew started. But other than that, I mean, my life wasn't really that bad. I didn't feel the weight of what was happening the way I do now.
Why? What's different now? I mean, of course you're older, right? But how do
Yeah.
you feel today?
You know, when I was when my dad was in jail, I don't even remember what it was, but my mom would give us pamphlets and we would distribute things. And I never at any point felt I was in danger or my friends, or I was putting my friends in danger. We would distribute information, and I'm sure it was subversive. It must have been. I mean, it's not like a cooking class or anything like that. So it must have been something. I I never felt fear the way I do now. Now I feel that there is there is nothing protecting me. Like the laws can be turned and twisted according to however they want to read it. It's not anymore read in the spirit in which it was made, which is to protect all of us as citizens. So laws are not even like the last thing that, you know, someone can go to court and say like, oh, you know, this is not right or whatever. It's like, that's not even a thing you can think of that will protect you. So it's really scary now. And I just always have to bring myself into what's in front of me and take myself out of my head many times thinking about all these things, because you go crazy thinking about what can be done to you.
Cheetah, this is happening again.
Yeah.
You know, history is repeating itself, it
Yeah.
seems. What do you think? Why? How did we get here again?
That's a tough question.
Also for you, if you know. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really, you know, back to a lack of spirituality in the activists. Um, when you get into an activist role, you have to have a strong spiritual background. It's just like the policemen have to have a strong spiritual background. Uh, and when you're into doing things, if you don't have a strong spiritual background, it becomes an ego trip, and and um, and then it doesn't accomplish in the long run what you wanted to do. You may kick the people out, but the system is still there. And if you have not become better people by what you have done, it will happen again. It all stems from your inner self. It's like there has to be a transformation among the populace, among the people, if we don't want this to happen again. We should have the good sense not to elect people who are already telling us, I'm a killer. And then we elect them anyway. O, paano yan? We have nobody to blame but ourselves.
Berta.
Um, I think there's something intrinsically wrong with the system. It will never matter who's in, you know, the place or positions of power. The system allows abuses to happen and allows the poor to continue to be poor, the rich to be extremely rich, and if you are in power, you can use the rich as an object, as an enemy for everyone, and say like maybe during martial law it was communism. Now it's the rich; they're the enemy. Go after them. And if you are not um, if you're not thinking carefully about all these things and thinking it through, you will just go with like whoever you want. I mean, instead of thinking through like, okay, it's all their fault, they're rich and all of this. I mean, there's always another side to the story. And I'm not saying that what they're saying is wrong, but there must be some point in the middle where it's a win situation for everyone. But all I'm saying is that, yeah, it's the system for me. Something has to change.
Your family is being demonized. President Duterte had just said that shutting down ABS was about conquering the oligarchy without martial law, without declaring martial law. He was very proud of that he was able to do it without declaring martial law. We know these tactics. I've always said under the Duterte administration, there are 3 C's: corrupt, coerce, co-opt. And then if you don't follow that, you become a cautionary tale. How do you defend your family against something like this?
I can't answer to every single thing. I know who my family is and I know what we stand for. So I just have to let it slide. But I still have to hold the line in the sense that
hold the line. Yes, go.
I still have to say that it is wrong to deprive people of their livelihood. It is wrong in this pandemic, not to have transportation available, not to have the healthcare system set up. How long has it been? How long does it take? And then all the help that's supposed to filter down to people, even the frontliners. I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's gotten to them, because even my kasambayhays, my household help, tell me that like the second tranche hasn't gotten to them. So they can say what they want about their family. But for me, it's like what they do to the bigger picture, what they do to everybody else is so wrong. It's almost like, okay, so like in terms of our family, it's like somebody coming to my house and saying, I want your house, give it to me, and it's mine, and get out. I mean, how can anybody do that? This is my home, I built it. My name is on the title. What gives you the right to do that to me? And I feel that that's what they're doing. And every day they conjure up something else. And it's like, I think to myself, every day, this is what you're thinking of, like how to do harm and evil to people. Why aren't you thinking about helping our nation? I mean, it really boggles my mind that they spend their time doing this.
Chita, how do you react to all the attacks, demonization of the Lopezes?
Oh. It's I don't know. What can one say? What can you do? I really don't know. I'm sorry. I
Well,
have no I have no answer.
you're actually protesting in the US, aren't you?
I do what I can in whatever way I can. As I said, I think that this is like we've been doing this before during martial law, Marcos time. We were here and we were protesting. We joined Movement for a Free Philippines. Raul Manglapus was the head. We used to go to the consulate and protest. Okay, and then in the early days of martial law, we went to protest again when they wanted to put Marcos in the Libingan ng Bayan. And now here we are again, protesting again. Um, I'm heartened by the fact that I see young people on the streets. This last rally that I went to was organized by young people, and they were good. I think they were better than we were in our time. got There were a lot of American Filipinos speaking English like an American, but they care for their country and they knew how to organize. One of them is her daughter. She's very activist. So that gave me a lot of hope. They have another one scheduled, so let's see what happens. Yeah.
Chita, I want to ask you about your kids. Everybody, a lot was said about Gina.
Yeah.
I know Gabby very well. I worked with him, and I know he has great courage. The one of the first instances I remember when then President Arroyo threatened the networks. This was during a coup attempt in quotes, right? The coup that
Uh-huh.
never happened.
Uh-huh.
ABS had the choice. President Arroyo threatened the networks, and Gabby came to me and said, continue. Do you want to continue coverage? And I said, of course,
They
yes.
didn't want, government didn't want it covered.
Government wanted to stop the news coverage of this potential coup. And this is one of the instances that I thought was fascinating because we actually had a reporter with the Scout Rangers, and they actually said, put us on live and we will go out and denounce the government. And we took a position. We said, go out and do it first, and then we'll put you on live, right? That decision by ABS-CBN at that time, I think, prevented that coup. Right. So this does show you, but it shows you the ethical decisions. That was one of those instances when I said I made the right choice working for him because he took a courageous stand. He just said, going, keep going.
I'm
Despite,
glad to hear that. I didn't know the details. Yeah.
could you describe those two kids? So how would you describe Gabby and Berta, the youngest daughter? I mean, how would you describe them? Their mom.
No, they're both very principled people, Gabby and Berta. They will go all out for their principles no matter what the cost. In that they're very much alike. And
In terms of Berta, ikaw, how did growing up in the US change you, and then what made you decide to come back?
So when we first arrived in the States, so I was maybe already 16. We were very ordinary. I mean, like nobody knew who you were, so you felt very normal, just like anybody else. We all had jobs. My first job was at Taco Bell. I had to, in fact, bring money every time because I was a cashier and I was always short. I didn't know how to count back change, so I had to always have money with me to make sure that I balanced out. My brothers, they worked in gas stations. They sold cars. So I think Ernie and Mom, they must have had a paper route. So we were very normal. I went to school by public transportation. I had to take a streetcar and a bus. So it was a good life because, we were together as a family. I got to spend a lot of time with my parents and my brothers and sisters. But I came home because this is home. Being anywhere else, I could have a good life. I could, everything works, the system works, everything's efficient. but it's like living in someone else's home, and being in the Philippines is home, no matter what, with all the faults and problems. I still love the Philippines. I still love the people here, and this is my home, and I will defend my home as much as I can.
Gita, you have lived through so much. What lessons, if any, I know you've learned, what lessons have you learned? What do you think is important for us, for younger Filipinos, to know from your lessons of history?
Yeah, well, everyone has to realize that you all have to do your part. Like that um, piece that was going around, very well written, that ended up, for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for you. It tolls for you, you and you, every one of us. If you want to have a better country, a better world, you have to do something. You cannot wait and have other people do it for you.
Do you consider yourself a Filipino, Cheetah?
Of course, more Filipino than American, of course. But I must say, I'm comfortable here. It's so because living in the Philippines, being a member of this family, you know, it's like you're living in a glass cage. And here, you can wear the same dress 10,000 times, nobody cares. So I'm comfortable that way. And Henny was also comfortable. He said he liked it, but he said, I have things to do and my country is back home. He said, no, you know, he was eager to go back home.
When you look back, is there anything you would change? Because your family really is influential, and at least my experience with ABS-CBN was a very good experience. I knew how powerful the network was, but I also knew that it wielded its power judiciously. Standards and ethics. It was under my watch that we wrote the standards and ethics manual, and we stuck to this. So I guess in looking back over time, you have gone through things that are far more personal than I had working for ABS-CBN. Would you do things differently? It's positive or negative.
I can't say anything about ABS-CBN. I mean, that's not my, not my territory. And me, I guess not. This is how life unfolded for me, and it's okay. I've suffered and grown through it, and I guess I'm happy where I am. I mean, content to be where I am. Yeah.
When you said everyone, it's coming to everybody. I guess if you were to give Filipinos advice, like what concrete advice would you give them now?
Well, for one thing, I would say that you have to know that whatever the country is now, it depends on you. You have to do your share. You can't stand by and criticize and then not do anything. You know what? This afternoon, I had a Zoom meditation, what you call it, centering prayer, okay? And then they had a Psalm 24. Can I read you part of Psalm?
Yes.
It says, who is fit to hold power and worthy to act in God's place? Those with a passion for the truth, who are horrified by injustice, who act with mercy to the poor, and have let go of selfish concerns. And I was thinking, this is exactly the opposite of what we have now. They are not only not horrified by injustice, they are the purveyors of injustice. I was just in this, meditation, it just hit me. I said, my God, this is exactly the opposite of what we have. They are acting in the place of God, but are they acting the way God would act? I mean, they're in a position of authority. Do they care about justice? Do they care about poor people? I mean, what can you say?
You mentioned this at the top, where in a way your husband was changed, right?
Yeah,
And it made him look at different things. I mean, part of the reason, at least from my experience, part of the reason journalists are the fourth estate is because when power has power, they feel invincible, you know,
yeah,
and that uh, checks and balances are really necessary uh,
yeah.
to hold
That-
power to account. Um, is there, I guess you said it was humbling and it was actually good for Henny.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess your family has gone through the cycles of history of the
Mm.
Philippines. Has it made your family stronger, weaker? What's the impact on your family of what's happened in the
Well,
Philippines?
where Henny was concerned, he really became a much better person. I mean, there were times when I wanted to leave him. So things were not really the way that I would have wanted them to be. After prison, I said, the Catholic Church was right. I was right not to leave him. He became the person I would have married if I were to marry at that time. He became such a beautiful person. You know, he cared so much for the country. He cared for human being. He was um yeah. So
Ikaw, Berta, I'll throw the same
Yeah.
question that I did to your mom, which is, again, your family has been at the center of history. What have you learned?
Oh my gosh, the biggest lesson for me is that you can't take freedom for granted. I really did. I never thought anything like this would happen, but apparently it can always happen again. So we really cannot take what we have for granted. And I, I know I'm in a very privileged position, um, and I have so many, things that others don't have. But I feel that now it's almost my duty to do something because who else is going to push and who else is going to hold the line? I mean, people who don't have food on the table, they can only think about the next meal and they're so vulnerable to what any opportunistic element comes in and says, okay, I'll pay you, but do this. I mean, so us in the more who have more privileges in this country, I think we have to be the frontliners. And with our PPEs and our pies, whatever it takes, we have to be there and we have to stand for every single Filipino. I mean, I can't, I mean, it makes me cry thinking about people not having food or being sick. So, I know.
so
Anyway, but for me, it's like, I feel that we just have to take care of ourselves because this is a long haul. It's not going to end in one day. It might be better for the kids of our kids. I don't know. And I don't even know what exactly has to be changed, but I know there has to be a shift in our thinking. I think we have to really believe that a change can happen. It's possible. And stop thinking that, oh, poor will always be poor, or what can we do to change things? It's just the way it is. Don't think that way anymore because then you just engender the same system to happen. So if you believe that we can make a difference, believe that somehow the inequity can start to lessen. I mean, I think we'll have, this is a beautiful country. I mean, look at the archipelago, all the islands, everybody wants to come visit us. I mean, there's so much beauty here, not only physically, but the people. And they're worth fighting for or standing up for.
Tita, your last thoughts.
oh, wala na. What can I say? I've said everything I need to say.
Berta, your last thoughts.
Um, I think people have to believe that something good will happen. It just might take time. Just don't get so pulled up into all the shenanigans that go on because that will zap you of all the power and hope and light in your life. So keep abreast of what's going on because it's always good to know. But don't let it take over your life. I mean, still believe something good is going to happen. Stand up for people who are being oppressed. Um, See you at the next noise barrage.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
I
ladies.
hope all goes well for you tomorrow.
Thank you. You know, I hope. I mean, it's that, right? We will hold the line, and but it's a tough time for sure, and we're seeing everything crumble. It's a little bit scary, and to echo what you both have said, in some ways, sometimes we do get the government we deserve. And Berta, you said, you know, there's a lot of rabbit holes, little things that don't matter that we all debate and argue while in the meantime something huge is coming, and like the anti-terror law, right? And it just passes. So I think you're right. Let's be vigilant. I think your family has had its place in history, and it's a privilege to talk to both of you. Thank you